As a physical therapist, I make recommendations all the time for home modifications or safety modifications for my elderly patients and their families. And over the years, I've realized that many of the recommendations that we make as therapists come from the decline that naturally happens as we age in one of our five senses. So vision, smell, hearing, taste, and touch. You ever walk into your parents' house and the TV's blaring so loud that you can't even concentrate on why you're there to begin with? Or have you ever had the experience where you watch your elderly father use the coffee table as a walker? As we age, our senses decline. Our sight gets dimmer, our hearing decreases, our sense of touch decreases. And all of those are things that happen normally as we age, and they're the reason why home modifications and safety modifications are needed. If we put ourselves in their shoes, if we can't see, hear, or feel things the way that we used to, then our home becomes full of potential hazards. By focusing on how each of the five senses declines as we age, we can maybe put into place some modifications before something happens. And it also allows us to look at our parent individually and see which senses they might be having more trouble with. So, for example, if your parent has issues with hearing, but they wear their hearing aids all the time, then you might not have to make a whole lot of modifications in that area. So in today's video, we're going to talk about how our senses change as we age. And then we're going to have a couple of solutions based on the sense that's affected. But for a more comprehensive list, in the description of the video, there's a downloadable checklist that you can use that goes by room and by sense. I'm Tammy Provenzel. I'm a physical therapist and a life coach for caregivers. I'm on a mission to make caregiving information accessible to everyone. So let's jump into the five senses. We're going to start with vision. As we age, our vision changes. And not only things like cataracts, glaucoma, or macular degeneration, those directly affect the structure of the eye. But there's also things like the muscles of the eyes get weak, the ability to dilate our eyes gets weaker. The muscles in the eyes also become less coordinated. So our eyes need to work together for depth perception to be able to perceive how far something is away from us. So if somebody has an issue with depth perception, you might see them going to reach for a chair, the arm of a chair, and they overshoot it or undershoot it and fall into the chair. A couple of solutions for decreased vision are things like increased lighting in the bathroom, in hallways, on stairwells. And there are some places where motion sensor lights would make sense so that your parent doesn't have to reach for a light switch. When it comes to depth perception issues, stairs can be a real issue. So at the corner, the edge of the stairs, you could put a bright or contrasting colored tape at the edge so that they can see that edge. And using things like magnifying glasses or clocks with big numbers, remote controls that are very simple and have big buttons, those things can help everyday things to be easier on them. When it comes to hearing problems, they're a big issue as we get older. The structure of our ear changes, the cells within our ear changes, and those things can make it really hard to hear things like the doorbell or a smoke detector or the phone. So some of the solutions could be to have a phone that actually has a visual light that lights up, or a smoke detector that actually has a visual component to it, like flashing lights or something. There's also sound amplifiers that, in my experience, a lot of my patients are willing to use, even if they don't like using hearing aids. And they're just like external headphones, and they have a little box that you can turn up or down. One of the newer things that science is noticing is that there's a correlation between hearing loss and dementia. And they're thinking that one of the big reasons for that is because if we can't hear what's going on, we can't interact with the environment, our brain doesn't have to process as much information, and the processing keeps it active. And when it comes to touch, the nerve endings that allow sensations to go from the tips of our fingers to our brain get fewer. So it might be harder to feel things like heat or cold or sharp. And then with certain medical conditions like diabetes or peripheral vascular disease, there can be a peripheral neuropathy. So the whole foot has very little sensation. We need to feel the floor through our feet in order to have good balance. So that can be a huge fall risk. Some of the solutions could include things like putting up grab bars anywhere that stability is needed, next to the toilet, in and out of the shower, even outside of the front door. If there's, say, a step to get into the house, have a grab bar there so that it gives them an extra base of support. To cut down on the potential for injuries, making sure that furniture edges are either soft, cushioned, or that we actually put some kind of protection over those sharp edges or sharp corners. And this one's not often talked about, but if you're noticing that your parent is dropping their eating utensil, they're dropping their fork, it could be that they're having trouble feeling the fork. So sometimes even just adding something like a bigger handled utensil can help them to feel more because it's got more surface area. As we get older and our sense of smell decreases, we don't often think of that as being a bad thing necessarily, but it can have safety implications. So if your parent doesn't smell things anymore, it could mean that they don't smell the smoke that's coming out of the kitchen. They might not smell spoiled food, and so they might be eating stuff that isn't healthy for them. The loss of the sense of smell, I think, also has a lot to do with why people don't shower as much as they did when they were younger or change their clothes as often. If they can't tell that their clothes aren't smelling good or their body's not smelling good, they're not as motivated to clean up. So some of the solutions could include having a smoke detector that has a lot of visual lights or something that will get their attention. They do make safer appliances. They make certain types of stoves that don't get as hot to touch. They also have some automatic shut-off appliances, but they're probably very expensive. When it comes to things like spoiled food, having a system where food is dated, so we know when to throw it away, often those types of things involves us as the caregiver. We have to do some of those things. But if you can have a conversation with your parent and say, we're going to start this, we're going to see if we can use this new strategy to try to make sure that you don't eat any food that's bad for you. That might work. And when it comes to changing clothes or taking showers, sometimes it'll work to have a system in place for that too. So maybe you talk about a system for changing clothes that's every 2 days we change your clothes, and I'm going to help you to do that. Or twice a week on Wednesdays and Saturdays you take a shower. And even make maybe something visual so that they can see that today's the day that we take a shower, today's the day that we change our clothes. And if your parent, again, is cognizant enough, then having a conversation talking about their sense of smell that isn't the same as it was when they were younger might help to motivate them to let you guide them. And then taste is another sense that we don't often think can have like a safety issue related to it, but it can, because if our taste buds are not the same, usually as we age, the stronger tastes like salt and sugary things we can taste. So then we're probably going to choose the salty or sugary things, which are not usually full of a lot of nutritional value. And that can lead to things like malnutrition, poor circulation, poor wound healing. It can even lead to diabetes. So some of the solutions for that include maybe trying to use herbs that are maybe a little stronger, if your parent likes them. Things like garlic, lemon, basil. So meal prepping can sometimes help too. When your parent's hungry, they might just want to quickly reach for something that's convenient. If the meal's already prepped, that can sometimes help. And adding in between meals a nutritional shake that you can throw some protein powder in so that at least you know they're getting the nutrients they need. So today's video kind of explains why a lot of home modification and home safety recommendations are given by therapists. And hopefully the video helped you to figure out what's most important to your parents specifically. And hopefully you'll download the more comprehensive list of recommendations, but don't ever feel like you have to do everything at once. Even little adaptations or little modifications can make a big difference. And start small and see if you can add to it. Thanks for watching today's video. Please like, share, and subscribe to my channel. And in the comment section below, are there any unique strategies that you've used to help your parent with some of their loss in one of their senses?